Max Lerner. Today we're here at the Citywide Services Facility, one of the main hubs for the New York City Parks Department. I direct the Emerging Technologies team as part of our Sustainable Facilities Division, and we're here to learn about the world's most diverse green roof. This is a really amazing site that has nearly every type of green roof on one facility simultaneously. There's over 45 different types of pilot systems here, which is very unconventional in the world of green roofs. We really do this not because it's the most optimal approach, but it's the best way to teach the public about green roofs. All the different ways you can construct them, all the different plants, all the different soil types, all the different layering, and we're here to teach you all about what goes into making this thing all that is and more. In a nutshell, green roofs are kind of like the Legos of the green infrastructure world. They're really simple in a way. They're, put very simply, plants on a roof, but there's a lot of pieces that can go into designing them. How deep they are they flat, are they going up a wall, are they on a slope? You can have small succulent plants, you can have big native plants, you can have different layers that absorb water and retain nutrients. You can put different things in the soil and oftentimes use soil substitutes, inorganic materials that are much lighter than soil. There's all different ways you can make them to really fit into your needs as a site, as well as what the building can support. Sometimes they can grow food, sometimes they're more so designed to be plants for pollinators, sometimes they're just there to be a green runner underneath a solar panel, just to keep the solar panel running a little bit cooler. We demonstrate all these principles and more here, not only so the New York City Parks Department can learn best practices firsthand, as we are the city's largest landowner. We own over 1,000 buildings and over 30,000 acres of New York City, which comprises about 14% of the city by area. We have a very large responsibility to take care of those facilities, to make sure they are as green as possible, to demonstrate best practices, and to do so in a really robust and broad brushstroke way, as we're based in every neighborhood, we're based in every borough. We really want to make sure our facilities are performing as well as possible and teach by doing. So by trying out all these systems here, we can learn what works and what doesn't, and we can also teach the public all of these life lessons we've learned by actually attempting these systems and having them grow here under the same climate conditions, under the same maintenance conditions for many, many years in perpetuity. It's a really amazing place that the public can come for free tours whenever they want, to learn with us and to see what might work for them, and to really just get everyone up to speed on being educated on these systems. We're not existing in a space where it's so much of a question of if green roofs work. We know that green roofs do work. Now we're just trying to figure out what green roof works for you. So by demonstrating all these systems, we're really able to figure out what pieces are most applicable for different projects. So right here, you can see a number of these pilot projects simultaneously. We have a native system over here, in which we have large, robust native plants. Generally speaking, what we're doing here is when plants are larger, they're giving more back to the environment. We really, among the many, many sustainable technologies that we work with at parks, we love our solar panels, we love looking into different composting systems, we're doing projects in water conservation, but green roofs are really interesting, and they're kind of this Pandora's box of solutions to urban environmental problems. They sequester pollution, they help to cool the air, they help to clean the air, they help to absorb water, they help to create pollinator habitats, they can create food, they can help to undo climate change. They really do all of these different pieces simultaneously. And generally speaking, when you have larger plants, they're doing more of that. Smaller plants are doing less of that because they're smaller, they're sucking up less carbon, they're sequestering less water, sequestering less pollution. But the larger plants take more maintenance. So it's a bit of a juggling act, and we demonstrate both. It wouldn't be possible to be doing this without our amazing gardeners who are here on the roof with us, taking care of these projects, but we want to demonstrate both to show the variety. So this is a more actively maintained native system, whereas those are behind us and over here are more passive succulents, or more commonly known as sedum. This is a vertical system. This parapet wall system is really interesting, and we've taken, sometimes roof space is a hot commodity depending on the building. You may not have the luxury of just building a system on your roof. When we were looking to make this a place of public congregation, we knew we had to have safety railing to make sure that it was safe for people to be up here. Rather than just putting in a banister here, instead we put in a planter. It achieved the safety goal, and it also added 8,000 square feet of plantable space on a roof. Not only that, but because this is a vertical system rather than a horizontal system, the load-bearing capacity of a wall is preposterously high. We would be hard-pressed to overburden it. So we were really able to build this however we wanted, because we were able to utilize the load-bearing capacity of the wall. So this is just regular old potting soil, and it's quite deep, as you can see. It's about a foot deep. Whereas this system here is much more shallow. When we're standing on the roof deck, we only have, on this facility, about 40 pounds of wiggle room per square foot. Whereas this system weighs much more than that, but because it's on the wall, that's fine. So it's learning to pick your battles. It's learning to design a system that works for the place you're working in. And understanding where the load-bearing capacity of your roof is a big piece of that. Knowing where the walls and beams and columns are allows you to optimize. These planters back here, similarly, are placed in very specific places. You can see the spacing is very uniform. There's the same air gap between these. That's because we put these on top of the columns. The columns are able to hold these planters, which are very heavy. I would be hard-pressed to move this. But because it's located in a specific place on the roof, we can put it there. If we were to put it somewhere else, that would be a safety issue. But because we did the structural analysis to know where we can load weights, we're able to really optimize this roof to get the most bang for our buck, to do the most possible good we can for the environment, and get the most robust plants within the logistics we're working in. Below us, we're actually walking on a walkable green roof. There's a lot of small creeping herbs and plants. We've really tried to optimize every space we have here, including even the pathways themselves. There's a lot of sacrificial plantings that can take some foot traffic, and you can actually see it here. It's exposed a little bit. There are base layers underneath the soil that may not be apparent at first glance, but they're actually helping to distribute your weight when you step on it so that you don't actually crush the plants as much as you might think you are. So you can walk on this safely because there are underlying layers to the soil that are helping to distribute the pressure that foot traffic is putting on them. So it's interesting to catch the green roof in its element here on a rainy day. It's quite overcast, and as you might imagine, the city's getting hit by this, and the city is largely made out of human-made impermeable surfaces: the glass, the asphalt, the concrete, the roads, the highways, the buildings, the sidewalks, the streets are largely impermeable. But here we've created permeable systems. We've created things that can absorb rainwater, and that's really important because all that rainwater, as well as all the water from all our buildings and all our municipal processes, and from washing our hands and flushing our toilets and taking showers, has to go somewhere and has to be processed. And by installing green infrastructure, we're able to help aid when we have this storm surge like we do today, when there's a lot of rain entering that equation outside the control of what we're all as people adding into that combined sewer system. I've been tinkering around with green roofs for the better part of 20 years now, and it's really amazing because in the grander scheme of ways in which we can tangibly help make the city work, make it sustainable, make it resilient, make it feasible, this is a really low-hanging fruit. It's very quick to build these systems. It is very inexpensive in the grander scheme of capital work, and it really does a lot. We have over here to my left a large native system. It's about as tall as me. This is a bit heavier and performing quite a lot, as well as creating a wonderful pollinator corridor for our bees that we have on site. This is a system that you will see on a number of facilities around New York City, on the Javits Center, on the Empire State Building, on the Barclays Center. This is a standard zero floor system, a low 2-inch system It's, as you can see, much more shallow than this one. The plants are smaller, and the system is a lot lighter. It's also a lot more passive. So oftentimes, because of the logistics of the site, or because of the budgets, or because of rate restrictions, this is something that people will go for. And it's kind of choosing your battles, figuring out where these systems make sense for you. Green roofs are really interesting too because they harmonize with a lot of technologies. Over yonder, you can see one of the 4 banks of solar arrays we have on this facility. And you can see that the green roof runs right up to it, under it, and even ballasts it to keep it on top of our roof during wind events. In the grander scheme of New York City, we're now working with local laws that require green roofs on new construction, require solar panels on new construction. And it's interesting to be a repository for proven cases for where this works. And we've really seen how these technologies can work best together. Green roofs are great in a bubble, but they're really phenomenal when you're pairing them with other systems. We have water capture on this building. We have water tanks on our lower roof. We have solar panels. We have high efficiency HVAC systems. We have all these other pieces of the puzzle that is the grander building that have been designed to optimize on the green roof. The green roof is passively cooling the air around it, and then our air conditioners are passively taking in that pre-cooled air, saving us on our energy bill. The solar panels are southern facing. They're facing the sun over there. They are dark surfaces that are always facing the sun. They are mounted there. So they are predispositioned to get very, very hot. And much like other electronics, they don't perform very well when they're extremely hot. So in a kind of ironic way, on the very, very bright sunny day, it can actually be very risky to the panels because the panels can potentially overheat. But again, we have these nice lush plants underneath it that are passively cooling the air around the panels. That is keeping the panels cool, kind of like how you have a fan in your laptop to make sure that they don't overheat, so they work in that optimal temperature range. They're also, like I was mentioning before, taking in pollution around them. They're taking in particulates. That particulates, much like you may have seen on the windows outside your building, over time in a city like New York that has a lot of dense population, a lot of traffic, there is the opportunity for a lot of air pollution. However, the plants are taking that in, so it's not accumulating on the panels, keeping them clean, so they're capturing more energy. It's a really amazing harmony of systems here that make this building perform as optimally as possible. Normally you would expect that plants, of course, need water and sunlight. However, again, thinking for what pieces fit the puzzle that we're working with on a building, on a project, we have small succulent plants down here. They might not be the biggest, most robust natives. They might be outconformed in some contexts in terms of how much pollution they can suck up, how much rainwater they can suck up, but in terms of their ability to be passive and exist underneath this permanent shade structure that is the solar panel, they are really tops. So this is an interesting scenario where we're selectively choosing a plant that can exist in low light conditions. We're behind the solar panels, but these plants can still continue to thrive in this environment under here where they're getting at best partial sunlight, if any. And the trade-off, which is nice, is that they have this nice little shade structure. So on the flip side, when it's snowing, they have a nice little roof over their heads. They are sheltered from inclement weather, so they're able to stay a little bit warmer in the winter. The trade-off of not getting sunlight and not getting rain right now is something that we have to consider when we're choosing where to put plants. But when we're smart about where we're selecting where to zone the plants, we're able to get the best of both worlds, to get this plant panel cooling by these plants both in front of it and behind it. So these are permeable bags filled with expanded shale, slate, and clay. Puff stones. This actually weighs a lot less than soil because it's hard to see on camera, but there are small holes puffed in all of these rocks. So there's a lot of void space that, for one, takes weight out of the equation and also allows room for water to penetrate and microorganisms to more easily coexist in the soil. We fill these permeable bags. They can take rainwater in because there's lots of holes in them, and we use them as a ballast, as a weight to hold the panels in place so that they're secured against wind. And then what we can do is we can plant plants in here. We can cut holes and make small gaps so that plants can slowly vegetate over these bags, so that adds even more plants to the green roof. So last, but certainly not least in this puzzle of sustainable technologies and best practices are our friends, our gardeners, our bees. There are approximately 30,000 bees in each one of these stacks. This is nearly 500,000 bees right behind me, which kind of boggles the mind to think about, but this really wouldn't be possible without them. This effort is taken care of by under a half a dozen gardeners each year on a seasonal basis, and these small bees really pull their weight in a big way. This project in itself would not be possible without our amazing partners from US Ag Dev. They help us learn how to synergize our operations with pollinators and how to best create pollinator corridors for them. And these bees are really amazing because they're not just foraging on here, but they're foraging in a 5-mile radius approximately. So they're helping to pollinate plants all around the island. And they're hiding and keeping dry in their boxes during this rainstorm. But this is kind of what it looks like on the inside, though this doesn't have honey in it or any eggs. This is already tapped comb, but it kind of looks like, imagine a filing cabinet in there. And each one of these files are one of these frames of beeswax. And bees will keep everything they have in here, from their young to their food. This is something that is created from the pollen from our roof, as well as from their massive foraging grounds, and something that we can sustainably harvest with them. We let them keep the majority of their honey. This is an experimental setup, and it's mostly made to preserve the roof, but we do some harvesting just to see what they got cooking up for us. And it's really an amazing thing to be a part of, to see this circle of life happening, and happening in part because of our green roof existing. So to give you a little bit of history on green roofs, to put it in perspective, we've seen a lot of monolithic systems, which are like large lawns, but there's also such a thing as modular systems, small trays, which you saw a couple of upstairs. We're here on the lower roof of the Citywide Services Facility, and it's just modular trays. And in the chronology of New York City Green Roof, these trays in their former home in 2006 were New York City's largest green roof, at under 10,000 square feet, which in modern terms, with the Javits having a system that's approximately 400,000 square feet, very small. In 2016, we adopted these modular trays and put them on our roof, and it's just a small piece of our large acre-sized green roof here as the world's most diverse green roof. This is a native system that we salvaged from another site. We vac trucked off the soil, we reused the layers, and then we planted just a wild mix of different native plants that are perpetually left over at the end of season at our native plant nurseries. And the goal of this is to kind of meet in the middle. We've talked about small succulents, little sedums that are passive, and we talked about more robust natives that take some TLC to take care of. This is kind of the middle ground, finding a passive native mix, putting lots and lots of big, robust, environmentally hardy plants, but trying to find ones that can kind of take care of themselves. And over many, many years, the ecology, the microbiome of these trays have evolved into a way that can sustain itself. It's really cool. Again, we're coming out on a rainy day, and here, although not so relevant for this storm as this is just a drizzle, these systems are taking different amounts of rainwater. they're taking at least an inch of rainwater per square foot, which is about 90% of our storms. But as the forecast says it's gonna rain tomorrow, it may rain a couple more times, or if we ever get a big storm surge, we have these rainwater sequestration tanks. We have blue infrastructure to complement and supplement our green infrastructure. So all the drains on the upper roof above us are actually cut. There's a downspout disconnect, and the water that doesn't get sucked up by the plants goes through the plumbing above us, and gravity feeds to here, and then gravity feeds out through approximately 7,000 gallons of rainwater storage that we have. So later on, we can save that rainwater that maybe in a very, very big storm, unlike this one, the Greenroof wouldn't be able to capture, and use it later down the line when maybe there's a drought or there's a heat wave. Suddenly, we have conditions in which we want to add supplemental irrigation to help our plants out a little bit. It's another great way that we can keep water out of the combined sewer system and support our plants and make this building have a circular approach to being as sustainable as possible.